Welcome back. I hope you've been listening. I told you this would happen. There is a major shift in the markets that is ongoing, and we are now seeing Ethereum treasury companies ringing the bell on the stock exchange. There's Joe Lubin from Consensus, who's also, I think, a chairman of SharpLink, one of those companies that is switching to an Ethereum treasury strategy. And we are seeing a lot more occurring with Ethereum, the shift out of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is exhausted. We've been talking about this for months now. I'm exhausted about talking about it. And meanwhile, we've literally been talking about how, all these Bitcoin treasury companies are popping up. Everybody's buying Bitcoin. Everybody's announcing they're buying Bitcoin. I mean, there's even companies, like there's a coffee company that announces, we just bought one more Bitcoin and added it to our balance sheet. We now own 21 Bitcoin. It's like, serious, like this is way out of hand. And the narrative amongst the Bitcoin ecosystem is exhausted. I'm exhausted. Many of you are exhausted, and the market is also exhausted. And so what happens when the market becomes exhausted? We have a quadruple top in the last 1 year on the charts. This doesn't mean that we're not going higher. We could definitely be going much, much higher. But again, just as I'm exhausted about repeating the same thing over and over, and people in the comments saying, but Cryptoviser, we're nowhere near, we haven't even started the bull run. It's like, we're at $110,000. Like, what do you mean we haven't even started the bull run? The cycle low was $15,500. This is the bull run, right? But really, none of the other cryptos have really, well, I should rephrase, a very small portion of the other cryptos have, seen massive gains. I mean, even if you take XRP, right? People will say, well, XRP 10x or 5x or 7x or whatever. But a lot of this was the repricing of XRP, because if you pull the chart back further, during the 2020 and 2021 cycle, XRP did not perform at all because of the lawsuit with the SEC and the uncertainty there. And so this pump here, I don't even think this was a real pump. I think this was just a repricing in the last 4 to 8 years that XRP has not performed and not really kept up with the gains that the rest of the market has seen. And so outside of that, really, Solana and SUI and Hyperliquid are the only major coins that have done and maintained much higher levels from the cycle low. A lot of other cryptos, including Ethereum and the Ethereum ecosystem, have not seen these gains. And so as I'm exhausted, extremely exhausted, talking about Bitcoin and these Bitcoin treasury companies, finally, we have some relief in sight. And by the way, a lot of people still don't think that we're at the top of the market, but we are. And by the way, don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. We upload every single day to bring you the latest happening in the financial world completely for free. All I ask is that you give the video a free thumbs up. Let's get into it. So as I've been saying, we are reaching towards the top of the market. Even these charts from Markets and Mayhem show that retail investor purchases in the first half of 2025 have exceeded speculative mania in the first half of 2021. In 2021, cryptos were way, way higher. There was way more hype around generally just the crypto ecosystem in 2021. And so there's more retail inflows now than there was back then. And people are saying, but Cryptoviser, retail hasn't even joined the party. Well, that's not based on data, because retail has joined the party. Retail has been in the party, but it's not about retail anymore. Now it's about Wall Street. Ethereum has finally has credible media present. It feels right, according to this Ethereum maximalist and on-chain heckler, showing Joseph Lubin. We just talked about him with SharpLink. And also Vlad Tenev from Robinhood, and also Tom Lee from Fundstrat, and also now chairman of the board at one of these Bitcoin treasury companies. Now, we're going to be talking about, these Ethereum treasury companies. We're going to be talking about these Ethereum treasury companies in depth in this video, because just recently I posted a video where I told my viewers a very direct investment strategy based on what we're seeing here. And the people who took that into their investment thesis saw opportunities over the last week or two, over the last month. And probably going forward, there will be more opportunities, but we have to time these opportunities right. Not saying time the market, but time the opportunities to make money in the market. Because in the final stages of the bull run, there's going to be massive, massive volatility. You're going to see some cryptos going up 3, 4x in a day, but they can also go back down and even lower than where the current prices are in a day. So keep that in mind. We can go up very quick and we can also come down very quick, especially if they're pump and dumps or if they're based on non-real news, right? So Vlad from Robinhood is talking about tokenization, right? He said that tokenization is the biggest innovation in the past decade. And by the way, I mean, they're going to be using, they're basically tokenizing stocks and ownership in different companies, utilizing Arbitrum, which settles on Ethereum. And so we have now Wall Street redirecting the conversation, redirecting the narrative about crypto from Bitcoin and taking out debt and selling shares to buy more Bitcoin and trying that flywheel to moving over to Ethereum and saying, effectively, in my view, there's no like mistake why all of these companies are doing the same thing all at the same time, making the announcements. Why Robinhood is announcing tokenized stocks at the same time we're hearing Tom Lee and SharpLink launching these Ethereum treasury companies. This is all well timed because Wall Street was waiting until the sentiment in the market became exhausted. Because how many guys? There's still people who are like, wow, it's unbelievable that this company bought one Bitcoin and put it on their balance sheet. It's like, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, just when somebody buys a Tesla stock share, they don't go and write on X. The Cryptoviser just bought one share of Tesla. Hopefully this goes up. Now our balance is 10 Tesla shares. Like, who does that? Nobody, except for the Bitcoin maximalists, right? And so I have explained for quite a while, there is risk. We may not realize that risk this year, maybe not next year, but there's a lot of risk in these Bitcoin treasury companies that are buying at the top of the market. Because the thing is with Ethereum, the reason they're making these announcements and starting to buy Ethereum is because, yes, they believe in the future of Ethereum and everything that's being built on it and DeFi and all of that. But they also understand the opportunity from a price perspective. The Ethereum has significantly underperformed the rest of the market. When we're talking about all-time highs, passing all-time highs, highs from the cycle lows. The cycle low for Ethereum was about, I think, $1,200 or $1,300. So we're only double that. And we haven't really gone even that much higher than this. But there's opportunity now because everybody was focused on Bitcoin. That's exhausted. These companies, they got to keep buying more Bitcoin, taking on more debt to keep this price elevated. Otherwise, this is built on a puff of air, especially when the narrative is now about Ethereum. And not just Ethereum, the Ethereum ecosystem. So we just talked about Robinhood with Arbitrum, which is built on Ethereum. We also have Polygon's CEO saying announcement of an announcement. Arbitrum delivered a very big win to the Ethereum ecosystem with Robinhood. Next up is Polygon. We will deliver, he says, another big scale win to Ethereum in the coming weeks. Prepping it up, we are so back. Now, generally speaking, I mean, I would say announcements of announcements could just be, I mean, the announcement could be nothing. No material impact to the price or to the movement of the price. But then I saw this shipping announcement. So Polygon is on a shipping spree. And the next up is Polygon Proof of Stake's consensus layer called Himdall version 2 landing on July 10th of 2025. This is the most technically complex hard fork Polygon Proof of Stake has seen since its launch in 2020. So they talk about some of the changes here and all of this. But in my view, the fact that they're updating and making announcements about potential major updates, maybe even on par with Robinhood and Arbitrum. This is pretty big. I want you guys to remember the number one blockchain used for stablecoins is Polygon. Payments, Polygon. Micropayments, Polygon. Active addresses, Polygon. Polygon is where it's at. And Polygon has not performed. In fact, it's inversely performed. It's at full supply, right? There's no more inflation coming in the Polygon ecosystem. And meanwhile, it's valued lower than PP coin, lower than Shiba Inu coin, lower than Hyperliquid, which is literally a DEX. Polygon is one to keep an eye on. And by the way, one of the things I've been talking about for weeks, if not months, well, months on this channel, is that Bitcoin is going to top out at some point. But really, since May and June of 2025, we started to talk about the transition to Ethereum, the rotation into Ethereum, and that's not just going to benefit Ethereum. It's going to benefit every protocol built on Ethereum that has real fundamentals. Because, like I explained as well, we are going to go back to fundamentals at some point. Because Solana does not have the fundamentals that Ethereum or Polygon or Arbitrum have. It just doesn't. Meanwhile, Solana continues to maintain yearly highs and also near all-time record highs. But as we talked about with Bitcoin, this is built on a puff of air right now, because all they have delivered this cycle was meme coins, the Hawk2a coin, right? Value hundreds of millions of dollars extracted from the crypto ecosystem for, fake coins. That's all they delivered. They haven't really delivered what we've seen with Ethereum, with Polygon, with Arbitrum, and even some of the other Ethereum adjacent chains. And that brings us to this. The Ethereum maximalists are telling you where we are in the cycle. Now, remember, on the psychological, market charts, from the bottom all the way to the top, back down to the bottom, the top of the market is where euphoria is. And so the Ethereum maximalists are telling you where they are in the psychological charts. And we haven't even moved in the Ethereum price yet, which is a little bit nerve-wracking, but there's also really positive things. So from Bankless, Ryan said, it's finally happening. Traditional finance analysts are realizing the right way to value Ethereum is a store of value asset of an emerging economy. A brand new Ethereum report from Fidelity says everything that they've been saying over at Bankless for years. He said, I'm euphoric in this moment. Well, that's not good for the markets, so let's keep that to a minimum. But anyway, there is a new Fidelity report, 14 pages, talking about blockchains as emerging economies. And in this Fidelity report, they talk very extensively about Ethereum. It says this article utilizes the Ethereum network and its local currency Ether to illustrate Fidelity's framework. Measuring economic activity on blockchains has widespread applications for our investment approach and as a core to our asset allocation views. So if we search for Ethereum here, Ethereum, let's see what they say about Ethereum. So various types of tokens they talk about here. Okay, got that. They say a digital economy such as the Ethereum network can facilitate several offshore and onshore assets similar to traditional economies like that of the United States. The US economy has capital formation on exchanges and banks, where Ethereum, it's open capital formation. Disclosures are periodic and required in the US economy, but on Ethereum, there's none. Data is private and structured in the US economy, but is public and unstructured on Ethereum. Rules are made by regulators in the US economy. Rules are made by code on Ethereum. And so this is what the report is literally saying. It's pretty interesting stuff. And this is stuff we already know, but this is stuff that, think about it. The boomer banker who's sitting in his executive office who has no idea. He's like, well, I own some Bitcoin, but that's about it. It's like, do you know what PP coin is? He's like, what? And that's the person who needs to read these reports to understand how they're going to, roll this out and make their clients feel comfortable with this kind of investment or even advice. Yes. It says the Ethereum ecosystem has continued to see increased usership as measured by active wallets and associated transactions. And you can see that right here on the chart. And on the chart, you can clearly see that active addresses in the 30-day is in line with the Ethereum ecosystem transactions. So, it's a highly correlated number, it looks like. This one shows distribution of usership as measured by fees paid across different use cases, industries on Ethereum. Finance is 47%, trade is 25%, other is 22%, and then arts and entertainment is 6%. And And they talk about some other stuff. This is a 14-page report. I would not think it would probably be a good idea to read through it on this channel because you guys would be bored out of your mind. So we're just going to move on. And this is where this video is going to get spicy. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Give this video a free thumbs up. That way you never miss a new video. We upload every single day of the year to bring you the latest happening in the financial world. Now, again, just a few weeks ago, I told you guys on this channel, these Ethereum stocks or Bitcoin stocks, that is the play for the cycle. Everybody's focused over here and saying, but Cryptoviser, what about alt season? What about, what about PP coin? It's not going higher. Why not? Why is that not going higher? It's like, I don't know why it's not going higher. I'm not the market itself. I'm just an analyst in the market. But one of the things that we've identified is when the market moves, you need to move with the market, right? What do I always say on this channel, right? The market is telling you where you need to invest, right? I'm trading the market in front of us. I'm not trading the market I want. A lot of people in crypto, they're like, but Cryptoviser, this is the coin that I own and it's not moving higher. Why not? It's like, because that coin is not part of the narrative or that coin is just not part of the cycle right now. I don't know. There's no specific reason for it, but the market is telling you you're focusing on the wrong thing. But you're going to say, no, the market's wrong. People are not bullish enough. It's like, okay, maybe, but at the same time, you may be in the wrong coin. We dumped a lot of coins last cycle on this channel because they did not perform, number one. Number two, they haven't delivered. Number three, they haven't adapted to the rest of the crypto ecosystem. Stellar was one of those coins. Cardano was another one of those coins. Litecoin was another one of those coins. I'm not saying it's not right for your portfolio. Definitely was not right for mine. And to this day, a lot of those coins still are not going to be in the portfolio because they have not performed. They have not created what they have stated they were going to create or adapt or grow. And that is a problem when you're talking about all the competition that's in this ecosystem, right, of finance. And so we are trading the market in front of us. And the market is telling us, focus on Ethereum treasury companies. We saw what happened with MicroStrategy. We saw what happened with all these other Bitcoin companies. And as SharpLink announced their treasury strategy, the SharpLink stock price went crazy. Then we had Tom Lee announce that his company, or the company that he's chairman of the board, was going to it was called BitMine Immersion Technologies, that they were going to start buying ETH. That stock has basically 10x'd in 2 weeks. And there's people who are like, but Cryptoviser, what about this cryptocurrency? It's like, you're missing the point. The point is, this is where the narrative is. This is where the money is flowing. You want to make money or do you not want to make money? And so in a previous video, I said, for me, the next company that announces they're going to be buying Ethereum, I'm buying it as soon as possible, like immediately, the second I find out. And then just a few days later, what happens? We hear about Bit Digital, which is a Bitcoin mining company. They switched their entire thesis, their entire business to Ethereum. Now, we're going to get into what their CEO said here on Bloomberg in just a few minutes. But I want you guys to see what happened with their stock, right? Before the announcement, the stock took a little bit of a dip to about $1.90. And then after the announcement, we doubled in price. They didn't even really do anything besides change their business to Ethereum, and they doubled in price. And they're at a $1 billion valuation right now. Okay, that's Bit Digital. We're going to come back to this. Then we heard about this, Game Square. Today, Game Square announced the pricing of an underwritten public offering to accelerate the Ethereum treasury strategy. And so this company basically just announced a $100 million Ethereum treasury strategy aiming to generate 8 to 14% yield on chain, right, through staking, and probably some DeFi as well. That's what these companies are looking at, right? Do I buy Bitcoin, which is just has to go up in value. There's no other fundamental value in it. There's no yield. There's no way to make real money unless you're risking your coin, to loan it out and stuff like that. And so these companies are looking at Ethereum and saying this is probably better because you can earn a yield on it. Now, whether it's going to work out in the long term, I don't know. But for right now, this is the play. So these small companies with very small market caps are buying Ethereum and raising hundreds of millions of dollars to buy Ethereum. And yes, this is a very small portion of what they're doing in the Bitcoin game, but it doesn't matter. What is happening with the stocks of these companies? They're immediately shooting up, right? Backed by a strategic alliance with Dialectic, one of the world's top crypto investment firms. Capital will be deployed via Dialectic's Medici platform, which uses AI and automated risk controls to optimize DeFi returns. This strategy will evolve over time as GameSquare allocates up to $100 million in Ethereum investments. Now, they said to kick things off, GameSquare raised $8 million via a public offering, selling 8.4 million shares at 95 cents each. So 95 cents just to raise some money to buy Ethereum. And this is where they are 1 or 2 days later. $2.45, straight up, right? 2.5x overnight. And so this is the play, this cycle. This is the banana zone. Everybody thinks, oh no, it's going to be sweet cryptocurrency. It's going to be Solana. Solana's going to get to $10,000 this cycle. It's like, guys, you're missing the fucking point. Like, you're missing the point. Many of you who watch my videos, you get it. You're not missing the point. But there's people who come on my video and they say, but Cryptoviser, when I'm watching your video, the price is different. Why is that? It's like, because the video was pre-recorded. Like, these people, very low IQ, they're not going to get it. They're going to say, no, Cryptoviser, I don't think that I should get into these Ethereum treasury strategies. I'm going to hold on to my PP coin because I think that's going to go higher. It's like, okay, you do you. You do you. It's your portfolio. It's your decisions. It's your money. I don't care. The market is telling us this is the banana zone. And by the way, it's not just GameSquare. There's more. By the way, GameSquare is supposedly backed by Twitch streamer Ninja, who was named the Chief Innovation Officer in 2023. Now, whether he's still there or not, I don't know. But, the Ethereum maximalist wanted everyone to know that. But we also heard BTCS, which is a publicly traded company as well. And they do like infrastructure for crypto, very volatile stock historically. They're raising funds to target $225 million and buy Ethereum with it. And by the way, this is 1 day after they made the announcement. Their original announcement was that they were going to raise $100 million. Day later, they said, nope, we're increasing it to $225 million to buy Ethereum using the DeFi TradFi flywheel. And the DeFi TradFi flywheel, which I just did discuss, I think I discussed it on a previous video, is basically they buy the Ethereum, they generate revenue, right, through staking and DeFi and stuff like that. The share price appreciates. They sell more onto the market. They buy more Ethereum. They raise more money. They buy more Ethereum. They generate more revenue. The share price goes up. This is a flywheel. The difference between this flywheel and Michael Saylor or MicroStrategy's flywheel is there is revenue building models here. And in other areas of the market, like the Bitcoin treasury companies, they're talking about this. And I think that the long-term play is to do this. I mean, even Jim Chanos posted, a Bitcoin treasury company CEO is realizing the implications of a phase 2 strategy he laid out in a Financial Times interview and walks it back a day later, saying, we think of it as a Bitcoin gold rush, the CEO of Metaplanet. He said, we need to accumulate as much Bitcoin as we can to get to a point where we've reached escape velocity, and it just makes it very difficult for others to catch up. Then we have phase 2, when Bitcoin, like securities or government bonds, can be deposited with banks, and they'll provide very attractive financing against that asset. We'll get cash that we can use to buy profitable businesses and cash flowing businesses. So effectively, that's the goal, right? These Bitcoin companies, they're not just going to hold Bitcoin; they're going to do stuff with the Bitcoin eventually, right? And so we have to get there first. But effectively, they want to be able to earn a yield, right? Earn cash flow. And currently, they can't do that just holding the Bitcoin. They have to do something with the Bitcoin to make it productive. And that's the thing about Ethereum. And by the way, so the company CEO said, Metaplanet is Bitcoin first, Bitcoin only. Our singular focus right now is to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. Basically, stepping back a little bit on buying other businesses. But it is important to understand, like, that is the goal, like, not just to hold the Bitcoin, it's to be productive with the Bitcoin and have it help out the economy, right? And so that's the difference between the Ethereum flywheel and the Bitcoin flywheel. Is Ethereum, you can do things with it, you can make money off of it. And that's what these companies are going to obviously want to do. And so the rush to buy Bitcoin, to buy Ethereum and to get into these Ethereum treasury strategies, it's starting to pick up. And so BTCS, another example, they made the announcement the beginning of July, right? They were sitting at about $2.70, let's say. They basically doubled in price already, just based on the announcement. So even if you bought on the upswing on the announcement, you're probably still up. Now, could we go lower? Of course. But here's the deal with the Ethereum treasury companies is right now, most of the Ethereum treasury companies are on par, meaning their market caps kind of match where their Ethereum holdings will be. But like we just said, like BTCS, they went to $100 million based on their $100 million announcement. But now they just upped it to $225 million. So if this follows through, and by the time you're watching this video, you'll know the answer to the question, whether it followed through or not, at least in the shorter term. But that would tell me this market cap is probably going to go to $225 million at some point in the near future. And especially if they buy the Ethereum within the next few weeks or few months, which means this price is potentially going to $12 from $2. And that's just to be on par with what they're going to own in Ethereum. But here's the play, guys. Here is the play. While the Bitcoin treasury companies are buying Bitcoin now, right? We just talked about Anthony Pompliano's company, ProCap. They're buying Bitcoin at $100,000+, which is not the cycle low, and 8 times the cycle low of 15,500. Ethereum is still so close to the cycle low that there's more of a likelihood that we're going to see Ethereum going higher in price and Bitcoin either staying the same or going lower. So those Bitcoin treasury companies are going to have either flat or negative growth versus Ethereum. If Ethereum, let's say, gets to $5,000, it's basically double the price that it is today. And if all these companies that own Ethereum at the current valuations, if Ethereum price doubles, what do you think is going to happen to the stock? So if we get to $12 on BTCS and a $225 million valuation, and then the Ethereum price doubles, that's a $24 price, $500 million market cap. And that's just on par with their Ethereum holdings. They also have a business of mining and staking and stuff like that. And so the return proposition here is huge. It's really, really huge in the short and medium term. This is a trade. This is not necessarily a long-term hold. Some people are going to hold it for a long term, but this is more of a trade because these are going. I don't see how they can't. And this is why I think these Ethereum treasury companies are doing this now, because they understand Ethereum is still at a very low price. And so while the Bitcoin treasury thing is exhausted and they just keep, buying more and more and more with more and more and more debt, for this to go to $200,000, it's going to be much harder than for Ethereum to get to 5,000. And if Ethereum gets to 5,000, all these companies holding it's like immediately doubled just based on the Ethereum price. And that's if there's no premium. These stocks are going to have premiums and a lot more volatility because it's not an ETF. An ETF is the MNAV is 0. in these stocks, the MNAV is usually higher, at least right now in the cycle, as we see with like MicroStrategy, about 1.8 MNAV, meaning their stock is about 1.8 times what it should be based on their underlying Bitcoin. And so this is very, very lucrative in my view. This guy, Benji on X, said, it says, I work for Ethereum through Optimism, former Coinbase product employee. He said, one way I look at Ethereum right now is SharpLink and Bit Digital have, in just 1 month, eaten up 82% of all the net new Ethereum issued since the merge, right? We keep hearing about, oh, well, if MicroStrategy buys this much and, this other company buys this much, they're going to take out all the newly issued Bitcoin. They're taking out these Bitcoin that are produced every day. Ethereum, they just bought all the Ethereum that has been produced for the last few years. Think about that. In 1 month, 298,000 Ethereum. And spot Ethereum ETFs hold 4.1 million Ethereum, which is 11 times the net issuance since the merge. Basically, imagine an oil mine that yields 1 barrel a day while Wall Street swallows 6. That is Ethereum today. Programmed burn turns the supply negative whenever the fees spike. Native yield locks the coins in validators. And institutional demand is compounding. Essentially, Ethereum is on course to be the most deflationary mainstream asset ever created, and anyone in the world can own it today for just $2,500. And whenever there's gold, there's always going to be silver, and people are going to want the gains. That's what they're looking at. And the fact that I'm recording this like a day or two after many of these companies just made these major Ethereum announcements very early. But remember, if the cycle ends 18 months-ish after the Bitcoin halving, we are very close to that 18-month time frame. And so I believe personally, this bull run will be in reversal by January 1 of 2026. We will either be in the bear market, be in corrective phase towards the bear market, or at the top of the market by then. So basically what I'm saying is this trade that we're seeing right now, yes, it's going to be good for the longer term, and it's going to come up again, just like MicroStrategy. People made a lot of money in MicroStrategy in the last cycle, in the bear market, and now not as much, but definitely in the bull market as well. And the same thing is going to happen with Ethereum. But here's a great opportunity to trade almost what seems like it's going to happen. But again, it's the timing that is very important to understand here. Because if you get in too late, you are the exit liquidity. So these trades have to be timed very, very accurately. Now, people like you and I, we're watching these markets constantly. So we see the signals, we see the rumblings of, this company maybe start buying Ethereum. So we could start doing the research, start looking at filings, start looking at their website, see if they're making any announcements about this to validate that it's occurring. As soon as you have validation, boom. Because the rest of the market, when they find out in a few days, few weeks, we're starting to see it, them talking about it on the mainstream Fox Business and CNBC and Bloomberg and all of that. But wait till it hits social media. When they hit 5-10x, that's when people start saying, "Oh my God, look at this! We missed it. We should have bought it. We should have bought it." By that point, that's the point that you got to be out. You got to be out. This is where these are going to be trades, very high risk trades, but if you believe that Ethereum is going higher, which I personally believe it is, just based on this narrative shift and the value that is going to be pulled out of Bitcoin, right? Because people are selling their Bitcoin. That's clear that they're doing that. And so they're going to be rotating. And I've been talking about this rotation for years on the channel, that there is going to be a rotation. And potentially, once, I personally think Bitcoin's going to go to 50K. And so if Bitcoin goes 50K or below, and Ethereum pumps on that drop, then we'll see a reversal, right? Where then Ethereum will come down and Bitcoin will go back up. And then I think that we'll have the final exit pump. That will be the final exit pump. So people will be exiting Bitcoin and then putting it back into Ethereum. And that will be the final pump of the cycle. Maybe it already happened. I don't think that it did, though. But this potentially is going to put a lot of speculation on a lot of these coins out here, including some of the ones that have performed, but definitely with some of the ones that haven't performed. And as I've explained before as well, I believe that we're going to see a shakeup of the top 10 and top 20. A lot of these cryptos are no longer going to be in the top 20 after this cycle because they're not going to, the good coins are going to maintain some level of the pump. It may not be the full pump that they made, but they'll maintain some level of it. The coins that have just been a puff of air of just nothing, they're going to zero. They are going to zero because now their insiders don't even want the coins. Their insiders are selling the coins, right? Because, and by the way, this is going to happen with SWI as well. Raoul Pal said he has 70% of his money in SWI. To me, that's a big whoa. I do not want to be in that coin when he starts selling. And he will. Just like the Solana maximalists last cycle sold their soul. Well, Solana, not their soul. Maybe they sold the soul as well. But anyway, you guys kind of get the point. So my kind of overall view on this, there was a video that I wanted to play. Yeah, here. This is the CEO of Bit Digital, who, and again, Bit Digital changed their entire business model from Bitcoin mining into Ethereum. And listen why. We're going to play this at 1.25 speed. And make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. That way you never miss a new video. We got a lot of people who watch on a regular basis and they don't even click the thumbs up button. I don't understand why. They're not a channel member. I don't understand why. And some of them are not even subscribed. I definitely don't understand why. If you want to become a channel member, click the join button down below to learn more about becoming a channel member right here on YouTube on the Cryptoviser podcast. So yeah, let's listen to this interview on Bloomberg from the Bit Digital CEO.
Now, let's talk about Bit Digital. Shares of the crypto miner soaring this week after announcing the sale of 280 Bitcoin in order to buy Ether. Here to explain why, Bit Digital CEO Sam Tabar. Sam, why the shift? If you look at what's been happening lately, it's been really interesting to watch a lot of the American public take a closer eye at Solana, at Ether, at assets outside of Bitcoin. Why the shift for you?
Well, look, coming from an institutional background, I've been in this space for many years now, and I've watched investors feel like they missed on the Bitcoin wave. Ethereum represents that next wave. And so that is important to show investors an opportunity to catch up in a way. But also, we're not just buying a coin. We're allocating our reserves to a protocol that powers trillions of on-chain activity. And we believe Ethereum is becoming a new category of a strategic corporate asset, just like gold and treasuries. Ethereum actually really is a superior corporate asset. You could actually capture a good yield on that and fantastic capital appreciation.
Now I'm going to pause for a second because what he said at the beginning was exactly what I've been talking about in this video. He said that they're doing this, number one, because they want to give people an opportunity to feel like they can get in without feeling like they are left behind, which is where a lot of people feel right now with Bitcoin. The only major buyers of Bitcoin right now, it's not whales. Whales are not buying. Whales are selling, period. They are selling. Otherwise, the price would be higher, period. The only people who are buying are institutional investors. And people like Michael Saylor, they have to keep buying more and more and more. Maybe there'll be a supply shock in the future. Personally, I think that there's going to be a credit crunch with MicroStrategy or just in the general economy before we actually see Bitcoin price surging much higher. And again, the play is over for Bitcoin, right? People are exhausted about it. Like, how many more companies can come out and say, we're going to be buying Bitcoin? And people saying, wow, let's go buy their stock now. Nobody gives a shit anymore. People are bored of it. They're over it. We got it. They're buying Bitcoin. Great. They pumped our bags. Great. Take that profit. Move it into something else. And so now Wall Street, there are going to be a lot of people, a lot of companies, a lot of investors that say, damn, we missed this Bitcoin thing and we don't want to buy at the all-time record highs. There's a lot of people who will buy at the all-time record highs. Don't get that twisted either. But there's going to be a lot of people that don't. And so what is the next best thing? Period. Ethereum. That's it. It's not SWI. It's not Hyperliquid. It's not Cardano. It's Ethereum. Period. It's not even XRP. And by the way, XRP is not going higher. Even if the reason you're not having any company buy XRP is because Ripple doesn't need XRP and they're selling their XRP. So that's going to be a serious issue for the price appreciation there. So, but again, Ethereum's the next best thing. And so just if Ethereum doubles, think about what's going to happen to these stocks. BitDigital doubled just on their shift from Bitcoin to Ethereum, right? GameSquare still going high from 95 cents to over $2. BTCS from a dollar to where we are of $5, right? And I don't think this is it. I think it's just the beginning, right? Maybe how high we're going to go immediately after, I don't know. But again, these companies are being priced in of them buying the Ethereum. We're not pricing in the price appreciation of Ethereum. And that, by the way, is really where the MicroStrategy price moved when Bitcoin was going higher. And then MicroStrategy would sell the shares on the open market to raise more money to buy more Bitcoin. But by putting those shares in the market and selling them on the open market, they were diluting the other shareholders. So the price kind of leveled. These other companies, while they are going to be selling shares in the open market, there's way more room to run for Ethereum in this cycle than I think there was with Bitcoin. And so with Fidelity on board, making research reports about Ethereum and the whole Ethereum ecosystem, understanding that retail investors have already purchased more than they did in 2021, understanding that Wall Street is now pinpoint focused on Ethereum and Ethereum's ecosystem of building. They're on the stock market. They rang the bell. Guys, I mean, I really hope that you guys have been listening to the channel and the investment thesis and at least really, considering some of these opinions and analysis in your strategy. And I want to know from you guys down below, are you going with the Ethereum strategy? Are you exiting your Bitcoin positions? Are you exiting all your crypto positions? Are you staying in Bitcoin? What are you doing in your portfolio at this point in the cycle where we are with really everything being pinpoint focused on Ethereum? And by the way, it's also, we have Trump Media filing for a crypto blue chip ETF holding Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, and XRP, among others. And so that's interesting, right? That they're still trying to pump out these crypto ETFs. We also are hearing from Hunter Horsley, who is the CEO over at Bitwise Investments, one of the major crypto ETF providers. He said, I spoke with a Bitwise client, a $1 billion plus wealth manager CEO in Germany that has over 30% allocation with clients. He's brilliant. Wealth managers are going to be how millions of people gain exposure to the space in the coming chapter. And that's true. He also says one of the leading banks globally, managing over $1 trillion in assets under management and wealth management, approved a Bitwise crypto ETF for advisors to use in managed accounts. Now the work begins to support thousands of advisors building their thesis on crypto. Work we love doing. 2025 has started the mainstream era. And I would agree, the banks are getting involved. The financial advisors can now offer crypto products. And so this is going to grow. It's going to be a slow trickle, but it's setting us up for the next cycle. And that is where we have to be looking forward to. We have to understand from now until the next cycle, the next Bitcoin halving arena or area of time, from now till then, there's going to be a lot of volatility in the markets, potentially a lot of downside as well. And so if we know that, we know there's going to be downside at some point, we need to capture the profits and the gains that we're in. Otherwise, all of this emotion, all of this work, all of this research is for nothing. It's like going to work, right, for a full year, and then you don't go and collect your paycheck, right? That is the point. Now, listen, I understand some people are long-term investing, right? But even with long-term investing, the point should be to continue to grow the wealth, grow the holdings. And so, yeah, it depends what's right for your investment thesis and portfolio and situation. Some people are going to just hold forever and go through the stress for no reason because they're not even selling, right? Long term, everything's going to be good. But in the short term, yeah, I think locking in profits, waiting for better entry opportunities. And the more people say, no, 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 we're never going back down, we're never going to have a bear market, the more you have to say, we are. We are. Because people said, no, Cryptoviser, Bitcoin did not top out. And maybe it didn't. But it's exhausted. That's for sure. Because it can barely hold these levels. And the market is exhausted. The market's exhausted about Bitcoin. The market's exhausted about the Bitcoin price barely moving. The market is exhausted about these Bitcoin treasury companies saying they're going to take out debt to buy Bitcoin, right? This is not even real money they're using. They're using debt. And I get the thesis and the strategy, but to think that none of these companies are going to be margin called on this debt in a bear market, in a corrective phase, when most of them are buying over $100,000 dollar cost average or very close to that. I mean, even MicroStrategy, if we hit 50,000, which is my price target right now, if we hit 50,000, that's like 30% below MicroStrategy's buy price of $70,000. And so what would happen to that stock? It could have massive, massive drawdown in the price. Massive, because not only is the MNAV significant with MicroStrategy, but then you have a downtrending market. Oh boy, I don't even want to be exposed to those assets during that downturn because it's going to be really, really rough, really rough. And the maximalists, they're going to say, what, how did this happen? Nobody saw it happening. It's like, we saw it happening, right? Because that's how the markets operate. We cannot go up forever. Now, I don't think MicroStrategy will get called on their debt, but there's a possibility they will. And by the way, there's however many other companies that are doing the same thing. So one of them will be, and that is going to be interesting to see. But right now, it seems like the play is Ethereum and Ethereum layer 2 and adjacent chains. Do with that what you will, but this is what the play is. This is the market in front of us, not necessarily the market that we want. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video and conversation. Remember, these are just my opinions and my analysis on the market. So you got to do your own research, come up with your own portfolio. Most importantly, make sure you're subscribed and give the video a thumbs up. I'll see you guys on the next video. Invest responsibly, do your own research, and crypto on.